Hi, I'm Brandon with Dwell Mortgage.
And I'm Jeff with John L. Scott.
And this is Homes and Loans.
So Brandon, been getting asked questions lately by my buyers, how the market's doing, interest rates, all that kind of stuff.
Those are always good questions, Jeff.
Yep.
I mean, everybody that's entering into the market as a buyer should be educating themselves on what the market's doing, because you're making typically a 30-year commitment to repay a debt at a certain interest rate. It's important to understand what that really means. So as of recently, the market has shifted. There's been a shift. It was nice and easy in 2020, really from the end of 2019 through all of 2020. Take the pandemic, take COVID out of the picture, the interest rate market was pretty flat. There wasn't a lot of shaking and baking. There was a little period in March of last year. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like middle to the end of March, when
nobody
stay
knew what was
inside
going
and
on,
everything, and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of panic. There was probably a 2.5-week period then where the market was very erratic and volatile, but it stabilized, and we were on a really nice calm run for really almost 18 months. If you take that period of uncertainty at the beginning to the end of March out of the picture, and so we got used to it. We got used to being comfortable.
Yeah.
Because interest rates weren't really changing a lot. If anything, they were getting better, and we were just, every month it felt like, as the calendar turned to the next month, it was historically low interest rates, right?
Yeah.
And everybody kind of knew that could only last for a matter of time.
True.
The market is a living, breathing animal, and it doesn't just hibernate like a bear, although it feels like we went through a period of hibernation, and that was largely due to the fact that we were in a period economically where there was a ton of uncertainty. The government was doing everything that they could to prop up the housing market, the bond market, the economy, just so we could make it through the pandemic. So there's a lot of artificial stimulation there to keep things kind of safe, because it would have been one more thing to put on our plate with the higher unemployment rates, people getting furloughed, people losing their jobs. We didn't also need a collapsing economy, right?
True.
Which we almost really had. We went through a recessionary period, which we're still kind of in.
Yeah.
So all that to say, Jeff, is we got really comfortable being safe with good interest rates, better than we had ever seen. Really, from the end of January, and from memory, I believe it was January 28th, there was a pivot in the bond market. When I say bond market, the bond, like the U.S. Treasury bond, there's several different maturities of this Treasury bond. The most commonly watched is the 10-year U.S. Treasury note, and that's kind of the gauge for how much inflation is present in the economy. Inflation is a very important piece of the economic puzzle when it comes to mortgage rates. Okay. Because if I'm a bank, Jeff, and I'm going to give you $500,000 to buy a house, right? And I'm going to give it to you today, but you're not going to pay me back that full amount until 30 years from now. Okay. I have to take into consideration that because of inflation, and the definition of inflation is goods and services getting more expensive over time. Okay. So pricing pressure. As demand increases, supply remains the same, things get more expensive. So the example I always use is a candy bar. Back when we were kids.
Oh man, they were cheap.
How much was it? When you went to get a Snickers bar or a Twix?
You can get 3 for $1.
Right? So there's the 30-something cents a candy bar.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, a Snickers bar was 50 cents. I'd go to the corner store and get one. Today, when I go to the gas station to get a candy bar for my 7-year-old, who's a candy junkie, they're $1.79 to $1.99. Yeah. So there's been an increase in price, and that's inflation. Yep. So if you're not going to pay me back for 30 years, I have to add an interest rate to that amount that I'm letting you borrow, so that when I get my money back at the end of 30 years, I'm not worse off than I was when I lent you the money.
Plus you want to make some money.
Well, there's profit there, but even if you took the profit out of the equation, I at least want to be as well off as I was when I gave you the money. Yeah. I don't want to be in a worse position. True. Right? So that U.S. 10-year Treasury note gives us an indication of how much inflation is present in the economy. And as of recently, we've seen some increased inflation. Now, is it real inflation? We don't know for sure yet. Okay. There's certainly some fears of potential hyperinflation because of the fact that whenever the government does things like a stimulus package, right, they're flooding the markets with money. I mean, you'll hear people say they're just printing money. right? And in a way they are. It's coming from somewhere, but they're flooding the marketplace with money, and so now everybody has more money than they had previously, and they have more capacity and capability to buy goods.
Yep.
If more people are competing for the same good, that good is going to get more expensive in price.
Yep.
That's
Classic
inflation.
Supply and demand.
Okay,
Yep.
so interest rates on the mortgage side have responded in kind. As we've seen an increase in inflation or potential inflation, interest rates have gone up. So I'll leave you with this, Jeff.
Okay.
Interest rates are still 0.3% lower today than they were 1 year ago.
Oh, wow.
So we're
That's
still
good.
in a good spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to take everything with context, right? You got to look
Yep.
at the historical information or the historical data available to you. However, in the same breath, I'll tell you that only a handful of times in the last 2 decades have we gone through a period of a month where interest rates have spiked 0.5% or more. And that happened last month.
Ooh.
That's only happened a couple of times in the last 20 years.
Okay.
So we went through this period of rapid change.
Yeah.
So you just need to be aware that that's what's going on. Do we think it'll continue? I anticipate that that's another question people have.
Definitely.
Right? Is it something we should wait out, or should we just stop being home buyers, or should we take advantage of the market?
Yep.
I would say that that's a very personal decision. Nobody out there has a crystal ball that can predict the future. If we did, we'd be doing something else.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if we knew all the answers to everything that was going to happen, we could be a lot better off doing other things.
I'd be sports betting.
Yeah,
Personally.
or something like that, right? Like Back to the Future.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we just don't know for sure. We have indications that the economy is going through an inflationary period. What will happen in the future? I think right now we're comparing every month from here to the end of this year to the same month last year. And last year was a weird year.
It was.
Like the economy pretty much came to a standstill from May, like April,
Definitely
May,
April,
June, July. We had a little bit of an opening in the summer, but then we closed back up again. So now we're going to compare everything that's happening this year to those months where we had little to no economic activity. So it's going to appear like we have a bunch of inflation.
Yeah.
So what I would say is 2021 is still a really good opportunity to be a competitive home buyer, because interest rates respectively are still very, very low.
Yeah. I remember when I bought my first house, I was 4.8.
Yeah, so
somewhere right around
I mean, even if interest rates have gone up from 2.5% to 3%, you're still in a really good spot as a home buyer. You just want to be cognizant of the fact that as interest rates increase, that's going to affect your buying power.
Correct.
Right?
So you're paying more, a little bit more in interest now.
Your payment's going to go up. For the exact same loan amount, your payment's a little bit higher as the interest rate increases. So that could potentially affect your ability to buy a more expensive home if interest rates keep going up. But you're still a great opportunity, great time to buy.
Yep.
If I had a crystal ball, I'd tell you what I know was going to happen. But I think what we'll see is a slight trend and an increase in inflation really through probably May or June.
Okay.
Once we hit June, July, and August, I think we're going to see a little bit of a retracement back to lower levels of inflation.
Okay. You just think because of the more home buyers, traditional buying season?
Yeah,
or?
I just think here's what's really going on, Jeff. The inflation stuff, yes, it's all true. It's a perceived inflation, and there is some real inflation out there. But the reality is, good news is bad news for mortgage rates, which is kind of hard to swallow. But the fact of the matter is, we're seeing a decline in COVID cases.
Yep.
The vaccine's becoming more accessible to the general public. People are getting vaccinated, which means people are able to go back to work. Kids are going back to school.
Yep.
Sports teams are playing sports. Like, these are all really good things, and we can celebrate them. We're returning to some normalcy.
Exactly.
But the fact that we're returning to some normalcy is going to be an indication of inflation, which is bad news for interest rates. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad. I mean, I celebrate the economy doing better, but at the same time, it causes rates to go up.
Yeah.
It's just the way economics work. So just be aware of it. Ask the right questions to the right people. Jeff and I are always available to be a resource for you if you have any specific market questions. I'm Brandon with Dwell Mortgage.
I'm Jeff with John L. Scott, and we'll see you next time.